Okay, let's go on to the operating temperatures. Again, we've got some numbers for you guys to go and cram past forget. Okay, CPF. So your NiCad and NiMH optimum charge temperatures, they both share charge temperatures and they both share operating temperatures. Okay, for both batteries, your charge temperatures are 0 to 45 degrees Celsius. For discharge, in other words, use of the battery, it's everything from -20 to 65 degrees Celsius. Then your optimum operating temperatures, the lower limit is -23 degrees Celsius. The optimum range is 25 degrees Celsius. And the higher range is 45 degrees Celsius. Cool, and also just a big note at the bottom there, the figures are subject to change based on the battery's life. In other words, if the battery has been used a lot and it's now a decaying battery, of course it's going to need less of a scale. It's not going to operate at -23. It might only operate at -13. Okay, depending on how much the battery has already been used. What's it there? The battery charge state. Rating voltage capacity, we've talked about all of that, the terminology already, so I'm just going to give you the numbers. Okay, NiCad and NiMH are generally very good at holding up against rough or abusive treatment. It does not mean that you now have permission to throw these batteries around. What it does mean is that if you drop this battery versus any other battery, at least this battery is less likely to explode. Okay. They exemplify very stable chemical characteristics. Exemplify basically means they are an example of. Okay. So they have very stable chemical characteristics. In other words, even though they have a lot of chemicals within them, guys, if we just go back to that picture, look at this picture. Look at that tiny cell versus all of the cushioning around it. Okay? Of course, if something happens to the cell, it's still got to get through all of that cushioning to actually have an impact on anything. NiCads have a 20% capacity loss over a period of a month versus your NiMHs, which have a 30% capacity loss over a month. If you charge a NiCad and a NiMH to 100% and you put them in storage, at the end of a month, the NiCad will only have dropped 20%, so it'll be at 80%. But over a month, the NiMH will have dropped 30%, meaning it's at 70%. Okay, what does that tell us? It tells us that the NiMHs will discharge faster than the NiCads. In other words, the NiMHs will use their power at a faster rate than the NiCads. Okay, that includes for self-discharge, which is in this case in storage, as well as for discharge in use, actually using the battery. The NiMH will run out faster than the NiCad will. Nominal voltage, guys, what is the nominal voltage? Yes, it's the desired minimum voltage. So if you're going to have your battery stored at as little voltage as possible, that's where you come to look at the nominal voltage. Remember, a battery can be stored at 0%. So that isn't the nominal voltage, that is the minimum voltage. That's where there's no voltage. Okay? Your nominal voltage is the amount of voltage that you want your battery to never go below. Okay. Cool. And your nominal voltage for a NiCad, just one singular cell, one NiCad cell, is 1.2 volts. And luckily for us with NiMH, it's the same thing, 1.2 volts. Okay, so all NiCad or nickel battery types have a nominal voltage of 1.2 volts. Your specific energy of the NiCad is 40 to 60 watt-hours per kilogram. Guys, what is specific energy? Look at that watt-hours per kilogram. What did we talk about? How fast it will release its power. That is exactly what it is. Specific energy is saying how quickly will this battery drain itself in use depending on the weight of the load for that battery. So for every kilogram of load that this battery has to work, it will release 40 to 60 watts per hour. So it's saying it'll release 40 to 60 watts per hour. That is literally a unit of distance and time, equating to speed. Okay? And then kilogram is just saying for every kilogram you're going to have 40 to 60 watts released per hour. Okay? Whereas your specific energy for a NIMH is 60 to 120 watt hours per kilogram. Guys, we just discussed how your NIMH will release power faster than the NiCad. This is a true obvious example. The NIMH releases 60 to 120 watts per hour versus the NiCad, which only releases 40 to 60 watts per hour. Capacity. What is battery capacity? Battery life. That's basically what it is. It's how much electricity can be stored in this battery. In other words, how long can the battery last before it needs to be recharged? A NIMH battery can hold 2 to 3 times the capacity of an equivalent sized NiCad. So, NIMHs can store more power, but they also release power at a faster rate. Okay, that is the difference between a NiCad and a NIMH. They're basically the same. They're the same in composition, they're the same in texture, they're even the same in sizes in most cases. The only difference is that a NiCad will release power nice and steady and will only store a certain amount. A NIMH will store a lot more power and will release it at a ferocious amount of time, or specific energy rates. Energy densities. Guys, what is density? Would you guys say that this class right now is a very dense class? Why not? It's not full. That's literally what it is not. If this classroom was full with people, then it was going to be a very dense class. Okay? The density of the classroom would be very big. Okay? Same thing applies to air. Same thing applies to water. Same thing applies to bodies of mass. Okay? Your density is how much of the composition is there of you. Okay? And it is not your mass. It is your density, meaning how many little particles make you up. Energy density is talking about what? Do you guys know what an electron is? Particles are tiny, minuscule pieces of something. Energy density is talking about electrons in a cell. An electron is a tiny electric particle that, when added with other electrons, makes electricity. And these little particles of power, depending how much there is in a given amount of space, will equate to a lot of energy density or not a lot of energy density. Okay? If I have a bubble and I have another bubble, this bubble has 50 electrons and this bubble has 100 electrons. The bubbles are the same size. This one, which has 100 particles in it, is more dense. The energy is higher. The energy density is higher because there's 100 particles versus 50. Guys, the easy way to remember this is there a lot of space for the particles to move in this one? No. Is there a lot of space to move in this one? Yes. That's the easiest way to remember density. Energy density of NIMH are exponentially higher than those of their NiCad counterparts. This is why the NIMHs can store more energy. Because the NIMHs are your NiCads or your buses, okay, where they can only take a certain amount of people and they won't take any more. Your NIMH are your taxi drivers, who they will stuff their car until you are lying on top of other people, okay? Because that is what the NIMH has the ability to do. It says, no, come on, let's keep going, until it is so full that it can't do anything, okay? Only then will it then release. And that explains to us why it self-discharges at such a rate. Because it's stored, it's pushed this thing in. Do you think if we just put it on the shelf now, it's just going to keep itself like this? No ways. It's going to allow itself to breathe out. It's going to discharge. It's going to release some of that energy. Okay, some of those electrons. Okay.